everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to start working on the back end of our dually. So what we're going to be up to back here is brakes, service the axle, replace the spare tire jack, clean up this mess of trailer wiring. I'm going to go over the airbag plumbing. We need to, this drive shaft, a new hanger bearing and all the joints. We have to fix up the exhaust. And there's a couple of little issues with the leaf springs I got to try and figure out. And we're going to clean up these bare rusty spots on the frame rails and just throw some paint on them. This thing comes out easily enough. There's a pin that holds this extension onto the gearbox here. The pin was long gone on this one. You can see what happened to this one. So we'll get it out of here and put in our new one. There, and that goes on just like that. Now I'm going to wind the thing down and I'm going to pull the spare tire up just to make sure it works like it's supposed to. And I want to get a bit of an idea of where the spare tire actually lands in this thing. Next thing I want to do is find a place to put this. This is a terminal box for trailers. This thing has had a lot of cutting and splicing and stuff done in the harness back here. So what I want to do is just open it all up, mount this box somewhere where I can terminate all my wiring and run all my trailer plugs out from, and we will have a much better system. I just have to make sure I find a place where, with the spare tire in, I can get at it. So I'm thinking that I'm probably going to drill and tap 2 holes in the back side of the trailer hitch, just like that. And this thing will hang down there. And I'll be able to get at it with the spare tire in place. I'll check around. There may be a better place to put it, but for now, that's kind of what I'm looking at. I found an even better place. I'm going to put a couple of tabs on the trailer hitch here, and I'm going to mount this baby right here. So it's behind the tire, easy to get at. That's the place to put it. First thing we're up against with this spring is, you can see at the front there, they've got alignment clips. Basically, they just keep the leaves and the springs together. This one, I don't know what went wrong, but it never had one. Although in the back of the other spring has one. So don't ask me what happened. Anyway, I want to make one for it. So what we're doing first, I have to drill a hole in the spring leaf. And that's not easy, but it can be done. You just work very slowly and you work your way up. Our goal is a letter U hole. And I've got the letter U drill. It was my last drill. It's about 3/4 of the way through and all my batteries are dead. So I'm waiting for my batteries to charge up and then I'll show you what we're going to do. Theoretically, at this point, I should also drill another hole in the end of this spring for one of these interliners, but I was pushing my luck getting this one hole drilled in there, so we're going to leave well enough alone. I've blasted it out with brake clean, and now we're going to take this is a 1/4-20 socket head screw. The diameter of this is just a tiny bit interference with the letter drill U hole that we just drilled. So fingers crossed, I ought to be able to, I put a little green Loctite on this and I should be able to hammer it into this hole. There we go. That's step 1. Now we've put 2 marks. These marks are about 3 and So they're 3 1/8 apart. The springs are only 3 inches wide, and theoretically I should be able to make my clamp 3 inches wide, but because it's been run for so many years without a clamp on it, the springs have kind of jiggled around a little bit and they're not quite lined up. The only way to fix it would be to completely take everything all apart. And then I would need 4 new U-bolts, new center bolts for the springs, and we don't need to do that. So we're going to just put it in the vise and use a mallet and bend this into a U shape. Took a little heat from the torch, but we got her done. Now we can put our U up over our screw here, and we'll put a lock nut on it. This is going to be a little more like a spring shop clamp, in that it's going to be wrapped tightly around the top of the spring. Whereas these factory ones, you can see there, they had like originally they had like a little nylon anti-rattler or anti-squeak thing in there. They're all long gone. So in this case, there's not really anything to keep this thing in place. So they rivet it to the spring leaf. Whereas the spring shop one, it's wrapped tightly around, and this stud at the bottom literally is just to keep it in place this way. So it doesn't really attach the thing to the spring. It just keeps it in place. So that's what we'll be doing with this. It'll be a little different than the other ones, but it'll serve the same effect. That's how it looks when it's done. I ran the nut up, sawed off the excess, and then I heated it up and bent it around the top. All good. Next thing we're going to tackle is there's a couple of issues surrounding the fifth wheel brackets and the exhaust and the shocks. All kind of because this is an aftermarket thing added on. It has caused some issues with the factory parts of the truck. The first thing when you put these on, this shock bolt, the original shock bolt, goes in from this side and the nut is on the inboard side. So somewhere along the line, they've had the rear shocks placed with these Monroe gas magnums, and obviously the fella couldn't get the bolt out. So they would push it through, torch it off, push it through, torch it off, and then put the new bolt in from the inboard side and the nut on the outboard side. But look what happened. The bolt is too long. It's pushed against the fifth wheel bracket and actually distorted the shock absorber bracket. So we're going to take that out of there and fix that up. We'll shorten the bolt a little bit so it doesn't hit that anymore. And while we're at it, these brackets, you can't see it, but down in there, they're held on with 2 bolts under there. Where are they? You see the 2 bolts? There's the bottom one, and the other one's up under there. There's also back behind here, behind the shock, there's a 3rd hole. So we're going to drill it out and fish a bolt through and get a 3rd bolt in there. That's that side. On this side, I'm not sure what's happened, but you can see it's not sitting flat against the frame rail. So a bunch of crud has gotten down in behind there too. So what we're going to do is we have to pop this exhaust hanger off to get at the lower bolt. We'll do that, get these 2 bolts undone, get the crud cleaned out from in behind there, and same thing, we'll drill through there and add the 3rd bolt to this one. And while we're at it, we're missing a rubber hanger there. We'll replace that. Alrighty, got the hangers out of the way, but now I have to be kind of careful because I don't want to spin the nut right off of this because these bolts are kind of fished down through the frame, through this hole, and I don't want to lose one of them in there. So we'll just run the nuts out enough that we can get this bracket swung out of the way and clean out the junk behind it, and then we'll tighten it back up. So we've got these backed out. Now let's see if we can jiggle this thing away from the frame a little bit. Oh yeah, good. Yeah, look at all the junk down in there. So we'll get that all cleaned up. We'll just scrape it all out there. and then we'll get this thing back stuck against the frame. I got this thing clamped to the frame, and we went ahead and under there center punched our third hole. I also found out that these are not bolts, they're spline studs, so you can take this thing off and they stay put. Good thinking on whoever's product this is. I got the hole center punched in the right spot, and I've put like a 1/8 drill bit through as a pilot. Now we'll slowly start working our way up until we get to 1/2 inch. Okay, we're going to start on this side now. Before I take anything apart, we're just going to go with a transfer punch and make a little mark where our new hole is going to be. Oh, and we got the shock absorber out of the way. Now we'll go ahead and pull the bracket off. And off it comes. We'll get this all cleaned up, and then we'll drill our hole. I've got this puppy back on, so now we're just going to torque all the bolts, 90 foot-pounds. We've got our extra bolt fished through the frame, and it doesn't have the knurl or spline on it to keep it in place like these other two do. So I just put a pair of pliers on it to hold it until we get it, get everything started. And then same thing like the other side. We'll just blast up all the bolts. Now we can go and put our exhaust back together. There's one new hanger. And there we have it. That's that fixed up. Now last thing we got to do is get that shock back on. I had to take the end off that bolt with the zip wheel so that the shock will clear. Now I've got our shock back installed. I just have to blast up the bolts. I managed to find a flag nut to use on this end like it's supposed to have. And I put a couple of washers under the head of it so that when it's tight, it doesn't hit the back of this bracket like it used to. Torque on the shocks, top and bottom, is 135. So we'll torque them all up to that. And I'll check the right shock too, because I didn't install it, so I don't know. Come on, baby. I don't know if it's torqued up properly or not. I'm starting to worry about this bolt. Give me a second. I swapped out that bolt to an old one from a Neon, a factory Chrysler bolt, and bang, it torqued right up. That other one, it's even though it said 10.9 on it, that's a baloney. It's in the scrap. So we're all set there. I'm really glad now that I took the box off. I found, you know, this stuff that we've been fixing today, I don't know if I would have even noticed that if the box was still on, nor would it be very easy to fix with the box still on. But this way it all went quite nicely. Next little job is we are going to get this mess wiring sorted out. We have mounted our junction box here on the back side of the trailer hitch so I can always get at it easily. The spare tire comes to about here. So this is a great place for this. Now what I'm going to do is start unwrapping some of this and seeing what the heck we're up against. Well, here's a first step. We've got a 4-pole plug hooked onto this and back working. These things actually did have both. There's splices in here. They all had a 4-pole plug, and I guess the wiring for the 7-pole plug there would have just been capped off and hanging on there, and you could add it if you want. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, we've got this. Now we're going to carry on and get that working. I had to shift the terminal box that way a little bit because our original harness coming from the truck wasn't going to reach to allow me to get all these conductors terminated, but it worked out now. So this is the everything coming from the front of the truck terminated in the box. Now we're going to add the first two. I will have coming out of this end, one going up to the actual trailer plug in the bumper of the truck, and this one here is going to go up into the side of the box for the fifth wheel plug. This now is our cable that's going to plug into the back of the bumper. That's what we'll plug our trailer into. Now I've got two ports on the end here. One of the things that's going to come out is this. This one is going to go up into the side of the box, and that'll be for our fifth wheel or slide-in camper plug. And I'm going to, because I'm a lunatic, I've gotten 30 feet of trailer cable, and out of the other one, I'm going to run one all the way up to the front of the truck because we've got a front trailer hitch on this now. So if I have a trailer on the hitch, I can plug it in and at least the brakes will work because I've got that slimy steep hill going up into the barn. If I'm pushing the trailer up into there, I'd like it if the brakes worked. Also, while we're working back here, I've got this. This is the cable, the 6-gauge cable that's coming back that we're going to use to run our winch. It's probably what the previous owners were using it for. But they've just got it tie wrapped to the outside of the frame willy-nilly. So we're going to cut all these tie wraps, clean this cable up, get some 3/8 loom on it, and then we'll sister it up with the actual wiring harness coming down from the front of the truck. There we are. We've got all our cables and all our connections made inside the box. There's one last thing we have to do. What I've done now is I've added a backup beeper to it. It's not something that I will have running all the time because, let's face it, they're as annoying as hell. But there are times when it's good to have it if there's a lot of people around or you know, you're in a low visibility situation. So what we'll do, I've got it hooked up to the reverse lights in the box here, and we'll run the ground up to the cab, and we'll ground it through a switch in the cab so that it only comes on when we want it to come on. Well, I've got our box closed up. Now we've got to concentrate on getting this cable run up to the front, that cable properly routed, brought to the back, and here's our trailer winch hookup. It's a Western or Fisher style snowplow pump motor connector. That's what we use. It works great. But all that is going to be in the next video. That's plenty for this one. So we're going to wrap her up now. We'll continue with this stuff in the next video. We still have quite a bit of stuff to do underneath the back of this truck. Just with the wiring and that sort of stuff. I've got a whole nother line I've got to run down. That's a whole nother story. We'll get to that next time. Anyway, I want to thank you for tuning in and supporting our channel. Hope you'll come back and see us again. And until then, this is Kevin saying so long from the Claremont Classic Garage.